Shavua Tov, a gute Woche, and welcome to our program, Mitzvah Shabbos Kedesh HaGodel. This is Shabbos HaGodel, before Pesach, and it's the Shabbos before Yud Aleph Nisan. And if we check the sign, Limud Hachono Yud Aleph Nisan Tovshin Pei Beis, the learning in preparation of Yud Aleph Nisan. And the good news, Rabbi Say, is that as of today, as of now, close to 800 volumes of the Rebbe's teaching were distributed. And Chalukah Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vov, Zayin, Ches, Tes, that you can see if you go online, Yud Aleph Nisan 120.com. And then you can decide as to what part you want to learn in preparation, accepting upon yourselves to learn it between this Yud Aleph Nisan and the Yud Aleph Nisan Imir Hashem Habo Aleinu Val Kol Yisrael Letevo. And you can go in and you will see all the Torah of the Rebbe, 250 volumes. And you can choose what you want. And if it's taken in Chalukah Aleph, you can go to Chalukah Beis, Gimel. Chalukah Aleph is complete. Chalukah Beis is almost complete. But then you can go to Chalukah, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vov, Zayin, Ches, Tes, Yud, Tes. Tes is already started. And you can choose whatever you want. Mokim Sheli Bechofetz. And this is the best gift to the Rebbe. As the Rebbe expressed himself many times, that this is a gift that he likes. And as the Rebbe writes in Hayem Yem, his kashrus hi alidei limud teirosei. His kashrus, the connection to a Rebbe, is by learning his Torah. That is the way to connect these kashrus from the Chosid to the Rebbe. Here it's the connection of learning a Torah, learning together with everyone else. A gift to the Rebbe for Yud Aleph Nisan, all the things together. In the Haggadah, when it comes the turn of the father, who sits at the head of the table, to answer the questions of the child, and we see that the children really put in a big effort in preparing for the 4 questions. It's the children and it's their teachers in yeshiva, in kindergarten, in preschool, and you see how much the teachers are getting involved in finding new ideas, innovative ideas, creative ideas as to how to present the 4 questions, which is absolutely wonderful. God bless them. And then it's the turn of the father and whoever sits at the head of the table to answer those questions. And we start with Avodah Mayinu. But what you see is that the innovation stops right there in some instances. The father's a little tired. He wants to start the Seder. He wants to finish before 12 o'clock. All kinds of reasons. There are so many things to do. And he just says what it says in the Haggadah. The question remains, however, the child asked 4 questions. Where is the answer to those 4 questions? As a matter of fact, there's a minhag that now spread all over in Chabad. After the child finishes the 4 questions, he says, Tata, ich habe die gefragt 4 kashes. Yes, bitte, give me the teretz. Now, please, probably started in all Torah in one classroom, and then it took off like wildfire. Now everybody says it. It's like part of the liturgy. It's part of the nusach. But the child wants an answer. But that also is part of the nusach. And after that, we say Avodah Mayinu, whether the child really gets the answer to every one of his questions. That in itself is a question. You see many times. $1 at videos, the Rebbe turns to the father, and the Rebbe asks the father, "Shein zugegeredet dem teretz von Avodah Mayinu, oder dem teretz of the 4 kasha? Did you prepare already?" And many times the father takes it. The Rebbe wants to be nice to him, wants to say something to him. Nevertheless, the Rebbe says to him, "You have an obligation. The child is going to ask you 4 shilas. Moreover, the obligation of the child is not midiraisa. It's not what you would call in English. It's not biblical. doesn't say in Chumash that the child has to ask 4 questions. Yes, it's a minhag. Nevertheless, for the father to answer, that says in the Torah, that's the Elaisa, Vehi gadat olavincho. Everybody knows that. So what happens here, it's the other way around. When it comes something that's a minhag, the minhag is done very well. And from year to year, the minhag improves. It becomes better and sharper and more innovative, and so on, as we see Baruch Hashem at the Zdolim. The Avodim Hayinu answer doesn't always match up to the form of the question. And it's understood. This question is understood. We will return to that in a moment. But first, our customary story. Many, over the years, have told the story of how they watched the Rebbe at the Seder. I was Zeicha for a few years, and then the door was open for everyone in the beginning of the 60s. I would finish the Seder early, sometimes only all by myself, because I wanted to be there when the Rebbe came in. And I would get a good place right behind the Rashag, because then you can see the Rebbe. And I saw some of the Anhogis, and I would like to share it with you. Number 1, excuse me, Hesebe, that right next to the Rebbe, always the Shmuel Butman would sit next to the Rebbe. In this case, right next to the Rebbe was a chair. After that was the Shmuel, and that chair was stationed in a way where the seating part of the chair was close to the Rebbe, and the back of the chair was close to the Shmuel. And on that chair there was a pillow. Some say 2 pillows. From what I remember, it was 1 pillow, but I'm not going to go into but that's where it was, and the Rebbe on this left side did Hesebe. That's number 1. I know that there's a controversy about the egg. Did the Rebbe clap the egg or not? From what I saw with my own eyes, he clapped the egg on the chair, on the side of the chair, so that the egg should be stationed well on the kaida. Kalpas. I saw this with my own eyes. He took a tzibele, but the tzibele was a complete tzibele. It was not a large tzibele like this, but it was complete in the shell. Looked golden with the shell. That's probably the reason. The reason for that is that they should make the bracha on a complete peli. But nevertheless, it was a complete tzibele that he put on the kaida. Yachatz. Now we all struggle with yachatz. He's supposed to take all 3 of them, then he's supposed to drop of them. You saw when the Rebbe did it, it was like magic. Everything he did once, he picked it up and he dropped it. It was like, in no time, it was done perfectly. Needless to say. We're talking about matzah. How the Rebbe ate matzah. I can tell you, we saw the Rebbe ate matzah. He would hold the matzah like this, in both hands. He would do it behesebe. And it was done so masterfully, if we can say in our language, so elegantly. It took almost no time. I don't think it took more than 2 minutes. You saw him eating strongly, that he wanted to finish on time. The Zman, I think, is like about 4 minutes. It never took the Rebbe 4 minutes. You saw that he wanted to be sure to be able to swallow it together. At most, it took 2 minutes. But it was done so nicely, so elegantly, look to us, effortlessly. And at the same time, to make sure that he should finish it on time and swallow it together. And it was something special to see. A Chassid once said that by seeing how the Rebbe is eating the kazais matzah, he has Yiddush Shamayim for a whole year. That's what a Chassid said. Model, that's what I saw. The Shisl of Model would be in front of him. He would take with his right hand, he would take a big tablespoon, and he would take one spoon together, a large spoon, he would put it into his left hand, one large spoon, a second large spoon, a third large spoon of model. And then he would squeeze it strongly to get the juice out. And as we know, it's the juice that is the power of the model. But the Rebbe would squeeze out the juice, and what would remain in his hand was like a bowl of model, and that's what he used for the model and for chasedes. About the soup, I know there are different stories about it, but I can tell you what I saw. In those years, there was a shisele. It was a small plate out of silver, and I was told that this is from the Alter Rebbe. And they would put the soup in that little shisele. And everyone would take 3 spoons of soup from the shisele into their own soup. The Rebbe would take 3 and a little bit more, which means 3 and something. Most say that the Rebbe would also take 3. I saw 3 and a little bit more. That's the shisele. The Rebbe Tzanchane would come to the Seder, and to the Rebbe's left, and they're closer to the kitchen, was another dining room. They called it in Russian the kleine stalove, the small dining room. And the Rebbe Tzanchane would be there and have the Seder. After the Seder, I saw it once. It probably happened every year. The Rebbe would help Rebbe Tzanchane go down the steps, and seeing it once with something that's absolutely magnificent. You saw the Rebbe walking a step at a step. The Rebbe Tzanchane with her right hand, she would hold on to the railing. The left hand, the Rebbe held with the Rebbe's right hand. He held the kaide, his own kaide, in his left hand, and with the right hand he held his mother's hand. And you saw that the Rebbe had all the time, all the patience in the world, to make sure that his mother goes down one step at a time, from the second floor to the first floor, and she would walk into the Rebbe's room, where she had her coat. She would stay there for a little while, and then she would walk out. One of the years I was able to see that. It was open for everyone to see, but one of the years I saw, and you saw the love, the respect, the undivided, unbelievable attention that the Rebbe gave his mother. Here's the leader of the world, and he has all the time. He's not rushed. He has all the time that it takes for his mother to go down one step at a time, not many steps at a time. One step, another step, and another step. And the Rebbe had all the patience, all the time of the world, in the world, to make sure that his mother is taken care of well. The Rebbe says, we say some Seder Lashon Haba B'Yerushalayim, and it brings from the Rebbe Nishma Seder. What does Lashon Haba B'Yerushalayim mean? Do we have to wait a whole year to be in Yerushalayim? And the Rebbe Nishma Seder says Lashon Haba B'Yerushalayim means that by next year we'll already be in Yerushalayim, but we should be immediately. That is when you say it by the Seder. When we say it now, when we talk about it now, then Lashon Haba does not mean next year. Lashon Haba B'Yerushalayim this Pesach, before Yud Aleph Nisan, which is the Rebbe B'Yerushalayim Mirakedesh B'Geula Ho Amitis V'Yashlemo Tekef Umiyad Mamish. Rebbe say in the first Piska of the Balagodet, which means in the first part of what we have to answer the children. The children have asked a question. There's a question on the table, and there's more than one question. There are 4 questions on the table. Feel cautious. Now we have to answer. Yes, we have to answer. We have an obligation. And if you may, a biblical obligation. Not only a rabbinic obligation. So the Baal HaGoda starts. And he says, Avodim hayinu lefadei b'Mitzrayim. We were slaves. And as somebody once said in jest, Avodim hayinu lefadei. We were slaves, and we're still slaves. And then, right away, the Baal HaGoda says, V'ilu lehitzi HaKadosh Baruch Hu saveseinu miMitzrayim, hari'onu uvaneinu uvnei vaneinu mushu'bodim hayinu lefadei b'Mitzrayim. If Almighty God would not have taken us out of Mitzrayim, then we would have been in Mitzrayim. What is the depth of these words? Why does it come right away, the beginning, in the first pisco, in the first part? And what is the message? So perhaps the message is that sometimes it's not easy for the Father to answer those questions. We know there are all kinds of children that come to the Seder. There is the Chochem, and there is the other one also. I have to tell you a story. There was an individual in this community, this is many years ago, who committed a white-collar crime. And he was going to be out. He was in a state penitentiary. And he was going to be out right after Pesach. But one day his wife called me, and she cried on the phone. And she said that her husband is due to be out right after Pesach. They tried to get him to come, to get permission, to get a furlough or permission to be here at the Seder. So far, they're not successful. And she cried on the phone. I didn't know her, but the fact that a Jewish woman is crying has to register. And she asked I should do something about it. At that time, there was a gentleman by the name of Stanley Steingut, who was the Speaker of the New York State Assembly. And we were friendly. He came from Crown Heights. And once at Yechidas, the Rebbe mentioned his name to me. I said to her, I'm going to see what I can do. I called Stanley Steingut. Thank God he took the phone. And I was very strong on him, that he has to get, this is a state issue, and he is the Speaker of the New York State Assembly. He has the power. He has to get this individual out of jail, and he will do what she said is the extra time he will do at the end. He will do the extra few days, but he should be out for the Seder. And remembering the tears of this unfortunate woman, I tried to be very strong and very aggressive when I spoke to Stanley Steingut, to the extent when he said to me, Rabbi, take it easy. Your friend is not sitting in jail for nothing. And then God helped me. And I said, Stanley, were you ever at the Seder? Yes. Do you know who comes to the Seder? The Chochem, the smart son, and there's also the Rosh, the wicked son. So there's a question, the wicked son, what is he doing at the Seder? He belongs in jail. The answer is, we're not judging. We're not saying where he belongs and what he did. What we are saying is that at the night of the Seder, every son, the wise son and the Rosh belong on, and the one who we think, whatever, belong at the Seder. He was taken with that. And he says, Rabbi, I'm going to see what I can do for you. Thank God they let him out. Erev Pesach in the morning. Baruch Hashem, he got out of jail. He came to Crown Heights. In those years, the Rebbe was giving out matzah. He told me the story later. So he's free. It's Erev Pesach. The Rebbe is giving matzah. He's standing in line for matzah. And he says, when the Rebbe saw him, the Rebbe says to him, Was tust du da? What are you doing here? The Rebbe knew that he was in jail. I'm just going to tell you the story. So he said, Shmuel Butman got me out. That was the story with the 4 sons. Now, those sons, as mentioned, come to the Seder. And the Chochem speaks nicely. The Rosh, the one who is called the Rosh, doesn't speak very nicely. What are you doing? And in the United States of America, what he can say is, Dad, I don't understand what this is all about. You're telling me a story 3,000 years ago, you were in Mitzrayim, you got out. We can commemorate that. We can dedicate one evening, not 8 days of not eating, of eating hard bread and this kind of wine that we don't even like. And by the way, Dad, we don't like hard bread and wine. My friends and I like pizza and beer for 8 days, because something that happened thousands of years ago, we'll commemorate one night. The father has to explain to the son with something very strong that the son also should be able to understand. In his position, he should be able to understand that this is not a Yom Tov of commemoration. This is a Yom Tov of liberation, that something happened to us. We're celebrating. We're not commemorating. We're celebrating. We're living it. And as a matter of fact, it says, we're living the exit out of Mitzrayim. We're not commemorating it. We're not telling a story, this happened to us. And the father is saying to his son, if not for these miracles, my son, then you today would not be driving my Porsche on the New York State Thruway at 80 miles an hour. You, my son, would be driving a camel someplace in the deserts of Egypt. So therefore, this is your Yom Tov. Who went free? Not I went free, and my father and my grandfather went free. Yes, of course they did. You went free. It's a Yom Tov of your liberation. And the Baal HaGodah wants to say it immediately. He wants to register that. It says, Zekeli ve'anvehu elikei ovi v'alei memenhu. So there's an explanation. Zekeli, if it's my God, ve'anvehu, anvehu is an acronym of anivahu. Then I'm with him. If it's my God, then I have a connection with him. Elikei ovi, if it's only my father's God, v'alei memenhu is exalted from me. I really don't have a straight connection. Here what we're trying to establish is that this is not only your father's God, it's your God. Elikeinu v'elikei aviseinu, it's first our God. You, my son, would have been in Mitzrayim today. So therefore, it's your liberation. It's your God. Don't tell me that, Dad, your father, your grandfather, it's not my father and my grandfather. It's you. You would have been in Mitzrayim today, so it's your Chag HaGeula. It's your Yom Tov of liberation. And that is what the Baal HaGodah is trying to deliver in the very first Pisgah. Almighty God should help us. We should have a lot of Yiddish nachas of all children, regardless which category they go into. Gesundheit und Fröhlichkeit. And together with them, I had a teacher in Bedford and Dean. He said that we answer the Rosh, Ilu hoyo shom lehoyo nigol. If he would have acted this way in Mitzrayim, he wouldn't have been he would not be. He would not go out in the redemption. He wouldn't be redeemed. And the stress is shom. In Mitzrayim, yes. In the case of Mitzrayim, if he didn't really mean it, who knows what would have happened. But now, by the Gilo Hamitis Ve'ashleimo, it's different. Then every son, no matter how he says and what he says, every son is going to be redeemed. And Almighty God is going to take by the hand every single son, the Chacham and all the other children, and is going to say, Kum, zusammen, together with me, let's go out of Golus. In the Geulah Ha'amitis Ve'ashleimo, Gesundheit und Fröhlichkeit. ובגולו דידנו ושמחו ובטוב לבובו וטיב הנילה והניגלה ולמטה מעשרות טפוחים ובחסד וברחמים ותקף ומיד ממש.